Welcome to another episode of TourDeHype. Bringing characters to life is a daring challenge, yet it can be a decisive aspect of creating a convincing message and engaging users on a more personal level. Luckily, it doesn't have to be the complex task altogether if you use the right techniques in TourDeHype. So today I want to show you how you can create simple character animations in Hype that can be used for examples in explainers. So meet my friend John Doe. So as you can see, John is a straightforward animated character. He has some words for us in the speech bubble. You can see what he's talking about, and it's a character animation with animation loops. So as you can see, the eyes are blinking, and we've got some idle movements. And apart from that, he's also able to talk and do some motion gestures. So how do we create this now in TourDeHype? How do we bring such a character to life? Before we go over to the Hype app, let me quickly show you how John is actually being constructed. And thanks again for Martin Schneider to come up with this great artwork and for letting us use it. So make sure to check out Martin Schneider. You will find the link in the download file, and also with the sample on TourDeHype.com. So this character actually is created as vector art in Illustrator CC, and we've got different layers for different parts of the character. This is very important to be able to really change the different face parts of the face, for instance, to have the pupils, for instance, on one layer, and then you can simply copy the entire element right out of Illustrator and into your Hype composition. And what I'm doing here is I have created a symbol for the character so that I can animate the entire character symbol. For instance, for him to come into the scenery, moving the entire symbol container, and within this character symbol, I've created a mixer of simple elements. As you can see here, for instance, the right brow is just a pasted vector graphic. Using the vector graphics, by the way, I mean, this entire concept would work with PNGs as well, but and that might be a good fallback if you're targeting all the browsers. But with the vector graphics, you've got the advantage that the browser will actually use the scaling part of SVGs, of scalable vector graphics, so that you've got a crisp view of the entire artwork, even if zoomed in, if especially in responsive context, if you've got this on a large display, as crisp as on a small display, and keeping the file size at the bare minimum. So apart from these simple elements, making sure that they are on specific layers. So of course, whenever something should be on top of something else, for instance, the nose should be on top of the head of the face itself, because otherwise it wouldn't be visible. So it's the hierarchy in your Hype project that you've got to follow here. And then again, I'm using symbols again for parts that contain entire animation loops or animation parts that are together, so that I don't pollute my entire character timeline here. For instance, the eyes, I have created, let me quickly go to the main timeline first. So I don't have any animation going on the main timeline within my eye symbol. So inside the character symbol, there's an eye symbol. And this contains all the parts that construct the eyes. But the biggest advantage here for using TourDeHype is allowing us to use different timelines and combine different timelines. For instance, I can use a timeline, creating different animations in different timelines with the same elements. For instance, if I want to have the blink animation, I create a new timeline for this ice symbol, and let me zoom in a little bit here. As you can see, I'm simply moving down the eyelids a little bit and shrinking the pupils and the eye background, and then back to the original position, creating this effect of eyes closing, so the blink animation. And I added a little timeline action at the very end, and it says start timeline. You have to choose the timeline that you're in right now in order to create an animation loop. So whenever this blink animation starts, he will continue to blink, which is something that should run automatically anyway. Apart from that, I can create different animations for different expressions. For instance, if I want to have the character look to the left and back again, or look to the right. I mean, I think you get the concept. With looking to the right, I also added a little pause in between so that I can manually decide how long he should look to the right and then go back to the starting position. All right. It's pretty similar what I did with the mouth here. Oh, let me quickly zoom in once again. Sorry, going into the character symbol, into the mouse symbol. I've added the animation on the main timeline for the mouth because I just have one animation here, which is the talking animation, and again added start the main timeline from the beginning, so creating an animation loop for the mouth to get this talking animation. And I just use one shape here, and I pretty much just tweak the shape. Let me zoom in here a little bit, showing you what I've done. Changing the left position and just scaling the mouth up and down a little bit. Good thing about vector graphics is that you can scale them without having any kind of quality loss here. All right, now the important part here, how do I now create different, or how do I orchestrate these different animations? And the good thing is that you can pretty much do that using timeline actions, symbol actions, for instance, creating different timelines for the character, and I've got a timeline for talking, which pretty much just starts the talking animation with the mouth. I've got a wink, which just animates the eyebrows. So I can add whatever kind of animation I want to create here, which gives me like a default set of character movements and expressions. And let me quickly go back to the main timeline now. Here I can use symbol actions. So in order to create one of these actions, select the symbol that you're targeting, for instance, the character, and then I can use these different timelines. Starting the main timeline will automatically start the blink, so that the character, to give a more natural impression, will automatically blink and move the arms a little bit up and down. But then I can mix it, for instance, with these wink animations, moving the eyebrows here. And you probably notice how fairly easy it is now to align these kinds of character animation with whatever's going on the main stage. For instance, as soon as the speech bubble comes in, I can say, start the timeline, talk. So I can now create start the talking animation in accordance to what's going on the stage without having to go inside the symbol anymore. And I can combine that with different timeline actions here. For instance, point right, and since the talk animation is an animation loop, it will automatically continue playing unless I add something like a pause to it, which is pretty much just, okay, now here I'm just adding the second part of the pointing position, and right at the very end, here, I just say go to time and timeline. So jumping back to the initial position of the talking timeline to make it actually stop there, so that I could, if I wanted to, start it at a later stage to have a second kind of conversation or have another character talk in between. So I think you pretty much get the idea here, that you can now trigger any kind of animations created within this tool. And the good thing about this is I literally didn't add any kind of custom code here. It's all been done using the board tools with TourDeHype. So get familiar with this. I would especially recommend you getting familiar with using different timelines, combining different timelines, and creating complex animation compositions, which is, it sounds a little bit more complicated than it actually is. So feel free to download the sample and take a look. And I created a lot more elements here, a lot more layers than I've been actually using in order to create animations. So feel free to play around with it. Try to add some new aspects to it. Probably just try to have just one eye winking. I'm really excited to see what you will come up with. So feel free to share it as well. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure to download the project on TourDeHype.com. I'm already excited to see what you can do with this technique. Of course, you can use your own character designs, but also feel free to play around with John. Big thanks, by the way, to our friend and colleague Martin Schneider, who created him. If you want to see more of his great artworks, follow the link below. And don't miss out on the other TourDeHype episodes. Happy animating!